Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Violet Rain.
So, welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Violet Rain. My guest today is Katie. She's a psychic who connects with spiritual guides to access information that assists clients in the rapid evolution of their soul. She exchanges information from higher states of consciousness with speed to provide clarity and expand awareness. She holds multiple certificates in subtle energy and is a graduate student in mindfulness-based transpersonal counseling at Naropa University. She's a mother of two girls and has two decades experience teaching. Woo! You can tell I've not had enough coffee yet this morning. Welcome, Katie.
Hello, thank you.
So share with us a little bit about your spiritual journey. Have you always been connected? Did you find somewhere along the line that you were more connected? Just share with us your story a little bit.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's been a long journey, the spiritual journey. Starting in childhood, I felt very attuned, very in touch with nature. All my sensories were like very activated, and I felt connected to spirit and angels, and I felt like the earth was alive and that I could talk to it. And I believe that a lot of children have that experience, and we dismiss it as being imagination, when really they're just really attuned. And so, yes, like as I had like wisdom teeth taken out, and I was like, oh, grandma and grandpa were here, and that got kind of dismissed, but I know I was in touch with the other side. Then throughout the middle of my life, I had a lot of different traumatic events happen, and I was very deep in the journey of the challenge and the struggles of some of the suffering that can come along. But I was also learning how to be a teacher and getting educated with that. I started teaching science and art. And then I had a couple really awakening experiences where I was wanting to call back all that connection and all that divine intelligence that I knew I was really in touch with. So I started doing more meditation, Reiki classes, and things that just started to activate it. Of course, I had a near-death experience that really activated it too. And in these deep meditations afterwards, I started to have the clairvoyant experiences come back online fully and very strongly. And I just felt so much grateful, gratitude in my heart that I could feel this connection. And I started moving towards, how can I use this to benefit the world?
I love that. I know that you taught a class this week or in the last couple of weeks on clairs. Share with the audience a little bit, what are clairs and how do we utilize them? Because I think people do, and they just label them differently or they don't understand. So share with us, what is a clair? What are the different types and how can we utilize them in our lives?
So yes, I did teach that class recently. I'm also preparing a presentation for my transpersonal counseling class on clairvoyance as a transpersonal practice. And the first thing that I tell people when I teach this is that, really we're talking about intuition. The first layer of that is intuition. And we all have some sort of intuitive ability. Now, to what degree that we can access all six clairs is to be determined. But that intuition is that gut feeling we have, where the room feels like there's tension in the room. Those are our extrasensory abilities, reading and into the unseen world of feeling a vibration. So Children have it, mothers have it, giving birth, things like this activate it. So on some level, we all can really dial that in a little bit more just with our awareness that we and acknowledging we have it. Then when you get into the six clairs, we're talking about psychic abilities like clairvoyance, okay? Clairvoyance truly means clear seeing. Like I describe it as like a projector in the mind's eye. And then there's clairsentience, when the information, and this is what it is, it's information coming in different ways. So you're interpreting it. Clairsentience is a feeling. So a feeling will wash over me that I will feel that has no reason to be washing over with teared up eyes and sadness. It is a feeling that the client is feeling. And then I go, oh, what's this about? And so then we can talk about what that is connected to. There's claircognizance, just knowing something for, just, I know this is going to happen. We need to turn left and not right, like that kind of a thing. Then a little bit more clairaudience, like when you hear a message that feels like feels internal, almost like an internal voice. And so one of the skills that we work on in the classes I teach is learning to discern the ego from different intuitive voices that you might hear, that are, just like an inner knowing is really what it feels like. Then there's clair, a sensation, two more clairs that are like you might taste something and not have a reason to have that taste in your mouth. The most common one I've experienced is like having a metallic taste for no reason, like I haven't eaten anything, nothing. So it might be like a bitter taste or something. And the other one is related to smelling. So maybe you smell a bunch of roses or your grandmother's perfume or something related to an event or a memory that the guides are trying to draw your attention to so that we can have awareness of it and talk about whatever needs to be processed and related to that.
I love the clairs and I love teaching about the clairs. And I think sometimes people have a misconception of some of these meaning. They think that when we say seen, that it's like we see perfectly like I see you right now. It doesn't work that way. It's internally in the eyes that we see most of the time. There are people that can see out here, but it's almost like you can close your eyes and you still see that vision or that person, or you see within the mind. And hearing, a lot of people are like, well, it's my voice, so it comes from me. Well, spirit talks to us in our voices in our head. It's that moment when you get something and you're like, where did that come from? Like, I wasn't even thinking about that or focusing on that. Where did that come from? Spirit utilizes that to connect with us. And I love the smell because there have been studies done that there are certain smells that trigger back memories immediately in our mind, that comes back. And so when they're using smell, so when my grandfather shows up, it's a cigar smell, and I know it's him without a doubt. Now, here's the thing. A lot of my family passed away when I was really young. So I don't know absolutely for sure that my grandfather smoked a cigar. But as soon as I smell that, I see him in my mind, and I know that's my trigger of he's there. He's in the room with me. He's trying to communicate with me or just kind of be around me. And so the clairs are these senses that we have that we can utilize, and everybody has them. You have these moments when these things happen, but most people just throw them to the side and don't pay attention, don't dive in. Whereas I think people on a spiritual path kind of pause and reflect, what is that? What's going on? And are more aware of these senses coming in than the person that hasn't connected. And so I get asked all the time, I love how you said everyone has them, because everyone does. Everyone can develop them. Everyone can step into them. And I have people all the time that's like, how do I open these up? How do I develop them? And sometimes I think it's timing. Spirit has a way of bringing stuff in when we really need it. And I think if you're forcing something, you've probably met students, I really want this so bad. And you can't do it that way. It's kind of, you have to be relaxed. You have to kind of surrender to the process and let it go is the easiest way I find. I think the more you try to force it, the more you have a difficulty opening it. If you play with it and just play and have fun with it, it comes in so much easier when you have no expectations and you're just kind of leaning in. Children are amazing. So if you have small children, grandchildren around under the age of 7, ask them questions because they still remember. There are children that remember who they were in their last lifetime. So if you sit down and say, who were you in your last life? Oh, I was a boy. And you were my blah, 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 blah. And we lived in blah, blah, blah. They remember because they haven't been shut down yet to not believe. And so they naturally will tell you lots of things about their last life. I love small children. Tell me who you were in your last life, just out of fun. And they'll just be like, and tell you. It's really kind of cool how that shows up. So I love Katie's one of our readers at our center. So she comes in. And one of the things that you have listed on your profile is psychic guide. So explain to me what a psychic guide is, because I thought that was fascinating that you put those two words together.
Well, I think that the psychicness is referring to all of my different abilities with clairvoyance and mediumship and channeling. But I use the word guide because I am guiding the client on their journey. And this is how I view teaching, and this is how I view counseling, is that you are really there honoring the client's wisdom, their innate internal wisdom. And so something led them to you. And so you're like a guidepost and you're going, okay, well, here's what this path is like. And then here's what I'm sensing over here. Tell me more about your journey. And then they reflect. It's like you're sitting with them as they're having their journey. And just like reading some of the signs and messages that come in that maybe they don't have access yet, but through just you accessing it for them, some of their abilities might get turned online. If they don't want all their abilities turned online and they want to make, some other assistance with decisions that are more, tangible on their life journey of where they're going to move or how to relate to their children, then you can be with them for that and help them process through whatever it is blocking a belief system or, what's going on that's getting in the way of that. But really, they're the ones accessing their own wisdom and choosing consciously to move through it.
I love that because I think that's really true. I always tell our readers, you have to be cautious because you're planting seeds. Mm-hmm. When we tell somebody something, they take it as truth, and it's really not our place to make choices for them. It's our place to say, hey, these things are happening. Your guides are trying to give you this information, this knowledge, so that they can make their choice, right? I've had people come back and say, well, the reader told me to break up with my boyfriend. The reader told me to get a divorce. The reader told me my boyfriend's cheating. Those types of responses in a reading is not a really good professional, high integrity reader, because it's not our job to tell you what to do. Your guides aren't going to tell you what to do. That's what's so funny when people come in and say, my God said I must. And I'm like, that's not your guide. That might be your ego, but it's not your guide, because they're not going to do that. They want you to make your own choices and they want to support you on your journey. So just know, if you go to readers and they're giving you, you need to do this, you must do that, it's not the right reader. You need to go to someone that's a guide, as Katie is saying. I'm going to give you the information, you make the choices, but I just want to help you understand or give you clarity on things, because sometimes that's really all we need, is just a little bit of clarity. So One of the things that you wanted to talk about, and I really wanted to step in, was awakening, because I feel like lots of people are waking up or going through an awakening. Tell us a little bit more of what is an awakening, and so that people understand that, and just some insight to what may be going on when we're experiencing those.
So an awakening can look different for people. And it can sort of land in a lot of different ways. A lot of times a major life event will trigger an awakening. Let me see here. Just that. That's the wisdom that is wanting to. I'm sorry, the sound was a little off, and so it was distracting me for a second. I was like, why is that sound being a little odd? So that's okay. I'm just like recalibrating for the sound of that. Well, awakening is an awareness, more awareness coming online. Like I have an awareness for the sound shifting. Something shifts for somebody and they don't know why or what. So it could be a big event, or it could be just like, I am not connecting with the world in the same way. And to me, it's that their unconscious programming that they have been sort of going through the movie reel of like their belief systems, what they understand, what reality is, because someone in first grade told you this is the way life works, get with the program or whatever. And they start going, I don't know if I think about it that way. Like they just sort of accepted it. And so they might start perceiving the world a different way. And then wanting to make meaning out of, or have more meaning to their experiences in life and how they connect with it. And those can be small shifts that someone says, I really want to get into more practice in tune with my body and doing more yoga. And that feels good. And that's like what the awakening and more awareness for the physical body. But some is like the feeling of wanting something beyond and wanting to understand reality differently. And so it really can send you down on a path of discovery and searching for something until you find these answers, like this drive that there's something else to know, and I want to explore that. And so it takes people on a journey of exploration.
I love that, because I think a lot of people are going through that. And she says either a big shift in your life, which could be taking a class, can bring in an awakening. Losing someone, grief can bring in awakening. Losing a job or moving, or a lot of things can bring in these awakenings. Even small things where you just wake up today and nothing feels quite right anymore. Nothing looks quite right anymore. Something has changed and shifted, and you really don't understand what that is. All of that can be awakening. It means it's trying to get you to look at the world from a different lens or a different perspective, to see it differently. Because what we don't realize is there's lots of programming in our subconscious, meaning things that we were told, things that were told to us about life or relationships, like an uncle sitting down next to you when you're like 4 and going, never trust men, they can never be trusted. That's a seed that's planted in the back of your mind, and you won't remember exactly where that came from, but it will influence every relationship you have moving forward. Right? It's an influential seed that's been planted. And I think at some point we start really looking at, is that truly my truth? Is that my belief? Is that something that I believe? Or is it something that I've been told, that I've taken on? Because we're influenced by the people in our lives and our experiences, the movies we watch, everything that comes in has an influence on our perspective and how we see the world. And when we start really asking questions of, is that my truth? Is that really what I believe? You start really switching how you look at things. And I love that aspect that we get to do that. So really cool. So I also know you've written several books. So talk to us about the books that you've created.
Well, yes, I've written two books. The first one I wrote is a memoir, Electric Katieland, A Journey of Awakening. And it's about my personal awakening journey. And I started with early childhood because I wanted to touch on a lot of those belief systems and how they landed for me and what were the experiences in life. And they're all mixed in, right? There's joyful experiences, there's frightening experiences, there's a lot to share. And I had started to gain a lot of awareness for, how some of my beliefs about life landed at a very early age. And I told some about the teenage years, and then really when I was starting to have the awakening experience and trying to describe how I perceived reality differently than the other adults around me. And then this expansion of consciousness that I didn't have a word for it, but I knew even beyond the spiritual, being raised Catholic, like I had those words, but I was like, there's more. And I went deep into studying science, and I taught science. And I really got into reading about quantum physics and quantum mechanics. And I started to make all these connections. And so I talked about the process of that in the book. And then it eventually led me to a lot of, this clairvoyant training, mindful meditation, which I feel is very important to integrate so that you can have that awareness yourself, because it's about self-validating. Like, not our world tends to want us to do external validating, but I was not satisfied until like I knew beyond a doubt, like my own inner knowing of my own searching and then redeveloping the relationship with my inner knowing, that what my truth was. Plant medicine was a big part of that as well. So I talked about working with various indigenous plant medicines. And that was another way to understand and expand my consciousness and then reintegrate it to my life. So that's the memoir. And then the second one I wrote was Switching to Analog, which is a short science fiction novella. That was so fun. My background is teaching art, and I have a degree in conceptual sculpture and art history. And so to me, like, I really love creative writing, and I wanted to make this turned into a piece of art, I feel. So it brought in a lot of knowledge in an entertaining way. And I wrote it in a way that was hard to even classify, like, what genre is it? Because it's really avant-garde. The style, I wrote it like a space traveler that is journaling, like their journey to Earth and how they are perceiving Earth from an outsider, and they're connecting with their guides, and they're using psychedelics and just providing all these observations on what's current culture in America right now. So it was really fun to write, and I think that there's it's entertaining, and there's pearls of wisdom and some seeds planted in there as well.
I love that. I love that. How fun and exciting. What a fun way to be creative as a creative outlet. So those that are listening will have your website, your information on the video of how to contact you. But what are some of the things that you offer for clients or classes? How can people tap in and find out more? And what are some of the things that you offer?
So I'm doing some readings, filling in at Discover Your Own Spiritual Gifts, and doing some classes with you at your center in Centennial. I also do psychic fair and some mindful meditation and channeling workshops at For Heaven's Sake in Applewood. That's kind of like by Lakewood, west of Denver. And I do online readings. I'm available to do some online readings as well. And I occasionally do things at the Bright Center in Conifer, and doing some integration circles up there for people that have maybe had prior psychedelic experiences that haven't had any way to understand it and share it, so that they can bring meaning to their life, because that's the key.
Right.
Oh, and lastly, I have also a few online courses on Learn It Live that are pre-recorded that people can access to, just to get some of these grounding tools and, protection, and maybe even tap into shadow work a little bit.
I love that. I love that, Miss Katie. Thank you so much today for taking the time to hang with me and be a guest on Sacred Magic Podcast. I really appreciate that. I've enjoyed connecting and getting to know you and having you at the center. I look forward to seeing what you offer in the future. I think that'll be awesome. So, thank you so much for being here today.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed talking with you, and I love sharing all that I have about these topics of clairvoyance.
Awesome. And those watching, thank you so much for watching our video or listening to us on the podcast. I hope you will like, comment, and follow us on our channels on your favorite channel. And I hope we'll see you at a future episode or even in person at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts in Centennial. Have a great day and thanks for listening.